I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending March the 9th, where we had free weight given away this week on a big disparage between some feeding cattle and bigger stocker cattle weighing in the high 6s and low 7s compared to some cattle that weighed a whole lot more that brought the same or less dollars per head. And I gave you several examples of that through the week there if you did. And I was talking to a regular listener there at a bull sale over the weekend in Shawnee, Oklahoma, Randall Box from the Morris Box Ranch, and he's a Red Angus breeder, but he said that he has to watch the feeder flash because all the people that he's doing business with are watching it and he doesn't want to be left out. And that makes me feel good. I'm glad to see some of you guys out and about that watch this regularly, and I invite you to share it with your friends and try to get as many people on here watching as we can. There's not a whole lot of people in this world that care about the commercial cattle market, and a lot of your purebred breeders couldn't tell you within $10 a hundred what the fat cattle market is. But always encouraged when I find people that get use out of this market report. But you know, we had several examples that I give through the week on some cattle that we're bringing more dollars per head, weighing a whole lot less in similar locations. Another thing we visited about through the week was when this big wall of cattle's coming. We've been hearing about them for a long time. It seemed like we've been dreading them ever since they put them on feed, but a lot of those big calves, a lot of them selling off the videos and private treaty and through some big sales, but a lot of those big ranch calves coming out of the mountain states and the northern plains they couldn't go anywhere but with them but on feed late last year, and those cattle will be hitting the market before too long. A little bit of question on when they're going to hit. Some people don't think they're going to hit till May. Some people think that might be delayed a little bit because of some pretty harsh storms that hit the northern plains feeding areas this winter. It wasn't a horrible winter, but bad storm, and then kind of recovering another bad storm, and just a cold, dreary winter that drags on forever is probably not as hard on cattle as just a big storm hitting, and it takes them a little bit to recover. But they had several of those hit in some areas up there in the northern plains. But you know, another thing to think, those cattle may not be that late coming, because you cannot just keep feeding those cattle. Those cattle will quit you. Those cattle are put on feed as calves less than a year old, and most of them will quit you at a lighter weight than what a long yearling would that come off of slow grazing grass and wasn't on his mother's milk for a long time and didn't have every bite and every nutritional value that he wanted his whole life, like a lot of these cattle that are going to go out on grass here before long. But let's look at the board through the week last week. June live cattle futures, Monday was up 95, Tuesday down 57, Wednesday was up a nickel, Thursday down 155, and Friday up 102 to end the week at 114.30 on the June, and that was down a dime compared to the previous week, so not much change there. Your April spot live cattle futures were actually up 95 cents because we're getting along in March. It seems like these months go by pretty fast. We're getting along in March and headed towards the April spot with it sitting at 123.12, and the fat cattle market still several dollars higher than that. April feeder cattle board, Monday was up $1.60, Tuesday down 75, Wednesday down 75, Thursday down 237, and Friday up 15 cents, with your April feeder cattle futures ending the week at 143.15, down $2.12. March was down $1.15 at 142.52. Now your fat cattle trade, it was kind of a interesting trade this week. We had the Southern Plains start caving again earlier than they needed to at 126 steady money. They just can't seem to wait to get a hold of that steady 126, although they didn't lose ground this week like they did the previous week. But the Northern Plains was sure hoping for more than that. They've got tighter market ready supplies. They were getting a better money early in the week on Monday on a few sales just to fill some slots from the regional packers, and they were really hoping to get more, but the Southern Plains keep selling out on them, and then they're forced to kind of follow suit. But through Thursday in the 5-area feeding region, they had sold 114,900 head. You could tell the packers were kind of tickled to get the purchase done at steady money too, because it looked early on in the week like they were going to get more money. But through the bulk of the trade, the Southern Plains sold at 126, Northern Plains stuck steady at 127, but barely any 205 on a dress basis, mostly all 204. So we thought we were done with that. But then Friday come out, and I had some guys sending me messages saying, hey, they're selling cattle again on Friday after it looked like the bulk of the trade had went on. And so on Friday, after the 115,000 had already sold in the 5 areas, Kansas sold some more cattle at $1.27, which is actually a buck better, and Nebraska sold some cattle at $2.05, which would be a buck better dressed. So that is a boost late in the week on a Friday there, and it should bleed over into Monday, and we should start this week out on a higher note. Box beef cutout values were higher again, although not as sharply as they have been here the last several weeks, but still gaining ground. Choice boxes, the average trade for last week, $223.63, up $2.45. Selects up 89 cents at $215.86, and that choice select spread now $7.77. Slaughter wasn't horrible, not as aggressive as the previous week, but still not bad. But 597,000 head for the week last week, which was down 11,000 from the previous week, but up 2,000 from the same week a year ago. Now look at your feeder markets, your real-time index on Beef Market Central there, based on 800-pound steers up through the middle 12 states, was down exactly $1 for the week, ending at 143.53. And so we knew that our sales were off a little bit. Your auctions, feeder cattle auctions through the week, your higher volume sales, most of the trends were from wheat to $3 lower, so that makes sense. We had straight up $1 lower on the weighted average price there. But stocker cattle and calves continuing to sell well through the southeast too, because a lot of your guys in the western grazing regions get their cattle from the southeast, and so they're sending those orders in and getting those shipped in calves. So they're still selling well. We didn't see as many stocker cattle, and then like I said earlier in the week, those stocker cattle are going to run out. There's just not very many of them. Everybody wants them. And the calves, lightweight calves with the most options, they were selling well all over, but steady to $5 higher on a lighter test of calves and stocker cattle. I'll give you some more examples late in the week on individual quotes that disparage between lighter cattle and heavier cattle. But in Lexington, Nebraska, where all the cattle are good, so we don't have to worry about whether there was a difference in the quality, or there could have been a little bit of difference in condition, but it wouldn't have made that big of a gap. But in Lexington, Nebraska on Friday, they had 93 head of 816-pound steers that bring 150.10. Now that's $1,225 a head. But did you know you can get another 92 pounds of cattle for $5 a head? As they sold 117 head of 908-pound steers at $135.50, which comes out to be $1,230. But that's a look at your week's markets from a Home DV auction office here in Canyon, Texas. We'll talk to you next week.